Hi everyone, this is meteorologist Joel Curtis with your Alaska Weather TV show. Starting out tonight with our weather headlines, we have strong Arctic high pressure with lots of blowing snow, low wind chills for rapid frostbite, bitter cold for frozen pipes and problems with home heat. And our outlook for into next weekend is for some precipitation along the Gulf Coast. Starting out with our warnings, watches, and advisories, we have a high wind warning for Matsu, and that's until 6 p.m. on Wednesday. Wind gusts have been reduced down to 75 miles per hour. 15 to 16,000 customers are out of power now in the Matsu Electric District. Wind chills to 35 below. Some other warnings that we have a wind chill at the Yukon Flats. That's until 6 p.m. Tuesday. A high wind warning for Skagway and White Pass, and that's until noon Tuesday. A high wind warning for the city and borough of Juneau until 9 p.m. tonight. Winter storm watch for the Beaufort Sea coast with AKwx approximately Tuesday through Thursday. And then all the others that you see on the following maps are wind chill advisories. So we've got those low wind chills and lots of cold temperatures. Let's get a look at our satellite image. We've got some low pressure systems drifting around the Gulf, but you notice that most of Alaska is really quite clear and cold, and that's due to the very, very strong Arctic high pressure systems. So we're watching again those lows out in the Gulf. They're not doing very much. There's a front out by Shimia, but otherwise the main story today is a 1057 millibar high over northwestern Canada. That's very, very strong. And then all that outflow wind is causing snow, blowing snow, low wind chills, so many problems with electric. We understand that there's still a few hundred customers outage in the western Kenai Peninsula as well. Snow showers out over the Gulf, including Kodiak from time to time in the Alaska Peninsula. But otherwise, the big story again is all that outflow wind coming out of that strong Arctic high pressure system. For tonight, that high actually builds another millibar to 1058. Still lots of blowing snow, very low wind chills. We do have, there will be some drifting snow that will be a problem for snow removal. Down in the Gulf, we've got snow showers and affecting the Alaska Peninsula and Kodiak Island. And then another high pressure system up by the Gulf of Anadyr, about 1039 millibars. And then on Tuesday, that high begins to weaken ever so slightly to 1056 millibars. Still lots of blowing snow, low wind chills, very, very cold temperatures. All the gap winds will be blowing hard. And then we have a little bit of snow out over the Gulf, including Kodiak Island and the Alaska Peninsula, and into the Pribilofs with some snow showers, as well as all of the Aleutians. And then on Wednesday, that high finally reduces just a little bit, but it moves further south into the Yukon Territory, 1052 millibars, still lots of blowing snow around the edges of that high into southeast Alaska. Even though it's clear, it's going to be really, really cold over there. Also, we have still some snow out over the Gulf of Alaska, and then lots of snow showers in the western part of the Bering Sea, as a weak weather system moves up to the central Aleutians, about 973 millibars or so. So looking at our temperatures across the state Tuesday, single digits for the low temperatures Tuesday morning into the Gulf of Alaska. Southeast Alaska, still some single digits, well below zero in the minus 40s for the central eastern interior. minus 30s for the north slope. You get down into the minus single digits as you get out to the west coast. 14 plus 14 for the Pribilofs, and warmer temperatures as you go out the Aleutians. Then for our high temperatures Tuesday afternoon, still in the minus teens for the Dead Horse area. Get down to minus 40 in the Yukon Flats. And along the Alcan border, minus 30s as you get down to Fairbanks. Single digits for southeast Alaska, including 9 for Yakutat. Single digits for lots of south central. Still well below zero for the McGrath area. And then as you get out west, it's plus single digits, but still very, very cold. And in the 30s as you get down on the Alaska Peninsula and going out the Aleutians. And then for Wednesday morning, again, cold, cold, cold. Minus 12 for Juneau, minus 3 for Yakutat. On the north slope, minus 21, and then as we get down to the Yukon Flats, again, you see those minus 40s, bitter, bitter cold, minus 55 for the Northway area, and then as warming up as a little bit as you go southwest and west. Then for Wednesday afternoon, again, high temperatures in the negative single digits along the north slope, minus 41 for the Yukon Flats, minus 51 for the Northway area, and then very, very bitter cold. Single digits for southeast Alaska, single digits for lots of south central, minus 26 for Glen Allen. And then as we get out west, seeing lots of single digits again for our high temperatures on Wednesday afternoon. And then finally you get above freezing in some of the Alaska Peninsula and down along the Aleutian Islands. So our 6 to 10 day outlook for January 9th through January 13th, looking for below normal temperatures for the northwestern third of the state, and fortunately a break around normal temperatures for the central region of the state, and then warming above normal for the Panhandle and the Gulf Coast. So looking for a little bit of a warm up January 9th through 13th. Precipitation, a slight chance of above normal for about the southeastern half of the state, and below normal for the northwestern and western coast. So a little bit more precipitation looking for as you get farther east. And then for our 8 to 14 day temperature for January 11th through January 17th, still below normal temperatures for the northwest coast all the way along the north slope. Normal for a swath in the central region of the state. And then it looks like we're going to be getting above normal temperatures starting from about Fairbanks down to Kodiak Island, and gets warmer yet as we go to southeast Alaska. A pretty good signal that it's going to warm up quite a bit for the Panhandle and get above normal temperatures. And then as we go to our 8 to 14 day precipitation outlook for January 11th through January 17th, we see that still a little bit of below normal precipitation all along the west coast from Utiagavik down through almost to Dillingham, and then normal temperatures for a narrow corridor of the state along the north slope, and then coming down through the Yukon River to Dillingham, and then slightly above normal for the about the eastern half of the mainland or so, and then continuing to be quite a bit above normal for the southeast Alaska and the Panhandle, including Yakutat. So let's review our warnings again. We have that high wind warning for Matsu, and that temperature wind speeds up to 75 miles an hour, and that's all the way into Wednesday. And again, our heart goes out to all those folks that are without heat, low wind chills, very, very cold temperatures. And then wind chill advisories just for the whole portion of the state. And then high wind warning continues for Skagway and White Pass, and for the city and borough of Juneau. Winter storm watch for the Kaktovik area, and all the others. Lots of wind chill. Blowing snow will still be a problem with some reduced visibilities, but the main thing will be removing the drifts. And look out, folks, because that Arctic high pressure is really going to last well into this week. And then finally we start to get out of it toward the weekend. The hint was that there would be some precipitation in the southeastern portion of the state on the weekend. Forecasters are still really working hard to see if that will be a major snowstorm or not, but we're certainly watching it closely. So thanks for tuning in. Please stay very, very safe out there with these low wind chills and all the power outages. And my thoughts are with you for tonight. So thanks again for tuning in.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Hi everyone, and now for your aviation weather segment. Starting out with our flying weather Tuesday morning, we have lots of marginal VFR out over the Gulf, including Kodiak Island and up to the Alaska Peninsula, as well as all of the Aleutians and the Pribilofs. A couple of very small areas of isolated IFR for the inside passage, plus around the Icy Bay area, Prince William Sound, and a little bit on the Alaska Peninsula. And then looking at Tuesday afternoon, we have marginal VFR again out over the Gulf, also at Kodiak Island, a little bit on the Alaska Peninsula, as well as all of the Aleutians and the Pribilofs. For Wednesday morning, we have marginal VFR again across the Gulf, including Kodiak Island, the Alaska Peninsula, and then out all along the Aleutians into the Bering Sea, and including the Pribilofs. And then we have a marginal VFR along the North Slope, and you can see some IFR creeping in from the north, hitting Utqiagvik. And then for Wednesday afternoon, that IFR has moved onto the North Slope, and we also have marginal VFR again out over the Gulf, Kodiak Island, the Alaska Peninsula, the Bering Sea, including the Pribilofs and the Aleutians. So looking at our pass conditions on Tuesday, starting out with Anaktuvik Pass, VFR, Adigan Pass, VFR, Lake Clark and Merrill Pass, both VFR and expect turbulence. For Rainy Pass, VFR and expect turbulence. Windy Pass, VFR with turbulence. Isabel Pass, VFR and turbulence. And Mentasta Pass, turbulence in the morning, VFR. Tahita Pass, VFR with turbulence. Portage Pass, VFR with turbulence. Chilkoot and White Pass, very windy with turbulence, VFR. For a freezing level Tuesday morning, the entire state is really at the surface, and then we have some 2,000 foot in the southern Gulf and about 2,000, 4,000 foot as you get to the far western Aleutians. For icing on Tuesday, we have isolated moderate between 2,000 and 6,000 feet for just about those same areas of the Gulf of Alaska, including Kodiak Island, also the Alaska Peninsula, on out across the Aleutians. For a jet stream on Tuesday, we have strong northeasterlies coming across the state up to 115 knots as you get out into the Bering Sea from that upper level high near the Gulf of Anadyr. Also, we have westerlies moving into the Pacific Northwest, most of it barely nicking Dixon Entrance with about 25 knots there. For a 9,000 foot winds on Tuesday, that upper level high over northeastern Russia has caused fairly strong easterlies. Once you get out into the Bering Sea, it picks up to about 70 knots or so. Then we also have some easterlies hitting the eastern Aleutians, 50 to 60 knots or so, about 35 knots at Kodiak Island with that onshore flow. And then for our 3,000 foot winds on Tuesday, again, that upper level high pressure system over northeastern Russia, we have the easterlies, 45 to 65 knots coming out from the central interior into Norton Sound, also about 55 knots in the St. Matthew area, and easterlies 55 knots over the Dutch Harbor and the southernmost Alaska Peninsula, otherwise about 45 to 50 knots. Also, I should mention that we've got about 50 knots or so for Chilkoot and White Pass, and also outflow from the Yakutat, Icy Bay, and maybe even a little bit from the Copper River Delta. For a turbulence on Tuesday, expect quite an area of considerable moderate over the central portion of the state, including Norton Sound, and all the way over to the Alcan, plus St. Lawrence Island. A little bit of isolated severe in the middle of that area, plus we also have a couple of areas of isolated severe for Chilkoot and White Pass, as well as the Copper River Delta. Considerable moderate all across the Gulf Coast, and considerable moderate all the way down from the Alaska Peninsula out over all the Aleutians, about surface to 4,000, maybe down to 3,000 feet as you get further west. That considerable areas are surface to 6,000 feet, and expect some low-level wind shear in the Gulf coastal regions. Well, that's our aviation weather. Fly safe out there.
Welcome to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snyder, and joining us once again is our good friend Eric Stevens from GINA, the Geographic Information Network of Alaska. Thanks again for joining us, Eric. We really appreciate it, as always.
Happy to be here, Dave.
Thanks. And, you know, we're going to ask you some more satellite questions here, but, you know,
okay,
since you're a regular guest, we're going to give you a riddle this time, kind of a trick start to the show.
Okay.
How do you see a polar bear in a snowstorm?
Sounds like a challenging question because
Okay.
the polar bear is white and the snowstorm is white.
Yeah.
How do you do that? Well, in the world of satellite meteorology, you couldn't, because the spatial resolution of this instrument that we're going to talk about today has 375 meters resolution, and even the most well-fed polar bear will not be 375 meters across.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, yeah, you wouldn't want to run into such a
No, that'd be a
creature,
bad day.
would you? In the satellite meteorology world, the equivalent would be, how do you tell the difference between clouds and then an area that has no clouds but's covered by snow,
Right.
a piece of ocean that has no clouds but has sea ice?
Oh.
All three of these are white.
Right.
The snow, the clouds, the sea ice, it's all white. So how, using satellite data, can you tell someone where the clouds are and where the clear areas are? This is important for aviators. Mariners want to know, in the ocean there, this white stuff, is that sea ice or is that just a cloud?
Right.
How do we tell the difference? And it turns out, if you look, say, at a picture of Alaska from the springtime, March or April, and it's high noon, so we're getting a lot of sunshine. If you were riding on a satellite with your human eye, look down, everything's white.
Right.
And we've got a picture of Alaska from early April, and we're seeing some of the lower elevations in south central Alaska are melting out, getting some brown ground there, but otherwise there's a whole lot of white on the image. What areas are cloudy, but what areas are clear and covered by snow or ice? Okay. It turns out that if we leave the visible spectrum behind a little bit, see, a satellite has multiple channels in the electromagnetic spectrum that it can look at.
Oh, okay.
Part of that's visible light, what we see as humans, but there's a lot going on at other wavelengths. If we add in something that's called near infrared, what we couldn't quite see, but we're getting into that infrared territory, there's a magical property that we can exploit.
Secrets to find. Okay.
Oh yeah. This is actually powerful and almost magical, that at a slightly longer wavelength, when the sun shines down on Alaska and then it bounces off back to the satellite, at that near infrared wavelength, it turns out that snow and ice will absorb that wavelength, but liquid water, like liquid droplets in a cloud, will reflect it back.
Okay.
And that's not the way it works in visible. You know, visible, it just bounces off of all those targets the same. But at near infrared, snow and ice absorbs it, and the liquid will reflect it back. Liquid cloud droplets will do that.
Okay.
And so an image where everything looks white suddenly becomes colorful.
Oh, okay.
And the way this recipe works is that the clouds look pink, and the snow-covered ground and the ice-covered ocean look blue. Suddenly now, we're able to see the polar bear in the snowstorm. We're able to see where the clouds are and where the snow is and where the ice is. This is a powerful advantage. Consider the case zooming into the Bering Strait area. What if you were asked to brief a pilot who wanted to fly, say, from Kotzebue down to Savunga or Gamble, and had to fly VFR, visual flight rules, so they had to stay out of the clouds? Could you use a satellite image where everything is white to provide that pilot any guidance?
It'd be pretty tricky.
Very tricky. And that's why we have to go to this other recipe where the all-white polar bear in the snowstorm becomes more colorful. And now we can tell the pilot, aha, this is a cloud you want to stay out of, but over here, sure, it looks white in the visible spectrum,
right.
But what we're doing, we'll show you, oh, this is just snow-covered ground, but it's clearing, so you can fly right through there. Visual flight rules. Same thing for a mariner who might want to get down to St. Lawrence Island, say, but has to avoid the sea ice. This product has applicability there as well.
Wonderful.
It's an amazing new technology, so many new channels. The satellite that makes this imagery actually has 22 different channels that it looks at.
22 secret decoder rings.
22 secret decoder rings.
Okay. You know, I liken this to an activity I had in the car when I was growing up. We go on long car rides, and we do all the work in these activity books to, you know, stay calm, cool, and collected for our parents who are trying to get us across the state. But to get the answer, the real answer, you had to apply that red sheet to see the answer or the secret path or whatever the message was in that activity book to get you onto the next page. And it's also like a photography filter, right? If you're taking a lot of pictures, you can apply different colors to see different parts of that image. I mean, that sounds a lot like what you're talking about.
Oh, you know it. The information is in there all along. We just have to combine the channels in a way to reveal what's in there. And by the way, you're dating yourself. So you didn't have an iPad in the back of the car?
No, sir.
Right? Okay. Well, we have, lastly, for dessert, there's a great image of the same kind of recipe. We're looking at South Central Alaska the first week of January. In first week of January, the sun, even at noon, is really low on the horizon, barely up. And in this image, the fun thing is the shadow of Denali. We can see the shadow of Denali over a lower pink cloud deck.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And Denali at 20,000 feet casts a big shadow. So this is another, just for fun, kind of application here. This is called multispectral satellite imagery, and it's the future. And happily, the future is now.
Oh, that is fascinating. And 22 different secrets that can be revealed from just one satellite tool that's floating overhead. Eric, thanks so much for joining us again. We can't wait to have you back and telling us more secrets of satellite technology that are passing over us every single day, many times a day, over Alaska and helping us all the way in many different parts of our lives. So thanks so much for joining us again.
Well, happy to be here.
All right. And thank you for staying with us. We'll be back with a little more weather here in just a few minutes. And of course, we'll have more Alaska weather facts anytime online.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Hi everyone, and now for your marine forecast. Starting out with today's ice edge, with the northerly winds and the very, very cold temperatures, we're really expecting a big surge toward the south, anywhere from 60 to 85 miles in the next 5 days. And so by day 7, the estimate is that the sea ice edge could reach St. Matthew Island. Also, I want to mention right here that we have heavy freezing spray for almost all the waters all across the Bering Sea and the Gulf, including the inside passage, the northern half of southeast Alaska. So looking at Tuesday's marine forecast, for Lynn Canal, we've got northerlies 40, gusts to 55, and lots of inside waters gusts all the way up to 45 as you get further south. Seas up to 9 feet, and then the outside, generally easterlies, ranging 40 down to 25 knots, seas up to 17 feet. And then for Wednesday's marine forecast, we've got, again, Lynn Canal, northerlies 35, gust to 50, and then wind bleeding off a little bit as you go further south, seas up to 7 feet on the inside, and then the outside waters, generally easterlies, 20 to 35 knots, and seas up to 10 feet. For south central waters, easterlies as you down in the Gulf, you could see some gusts of 50, especially coming out of the Copper River Delta. Seas on the outside up to 14 feet further east, but down to 7 feet as you get further west. Prince William Sound, seas up to 3 feet. Cook Inlet, wind ranging anywhere from 10 all the way up to a whole gale 40 knots down by Augustine, seas up to 11 feet. And then for Wednesday, again, wide range of wind, 10 to 40 knots on the Cook Inlet side, 15 knots for Prince William Sound, and easterlies and northeasterlies, 20 to 30 knots on the Gulf side, seas up to 12 feet. For Alaska Peninsula and Kodiak Island on Tuesday, we've got winds ranging 30 to all the way up to 40 knots. Gales mainly on the Gulf side, seas up to 15 feet there, and then seas up to 10 feet. A lot of ice in Bristol Bay, but 10 feet off of Coal Bay. And then for Wednesday, we've got, again, easterlies showing up, 35 to 40 knots on the Gulf side, seas all the way up to 18 feet down off of Sand Point, and whole gale up to 45 knots, seas 15 feet off of Coal Bay. Then for the Aleutian chain, we've got, again, easterlies all across the board there. Winds ranging 30 to 40 knots, seas up to 26 feet on the Bering Sea side as you get out to the western Aleutians, and up to 19 feet on the Pacific side south of Atka. And then for Wednesday, again, those easterlies are really persistent. Whole gale 40 and 45 knots. Seas up to 22 feet on the Bering Sea side and up to 20 feet on the Pacific side. For the west coast, mostly over ice, winds ranging 30 up to 40 knots, seas 12 feet off of St. Matthew and 14 feet off the Pribilofs. And then for Wednesday, again, easterlies and northeasterlies ranging 25 to 40 knots, seas 14 feet off the Pribilofs. And then for the Arctic coast, generally southerlies, winds ranging anywhere from 15 to about 25 knots, except for 30 knots down by the Bering Strait and over ice. So for Wednesday's marine forecast, we've got westerlies ranging 15 to 30 knots again, and then down by the Bering Strait, we've got northeasterlies 30 knots. So for tonight's weather, we're looking at that Arctic high pressure system, 1058 millibars, lots of snow, blowing snow, wind chills, very, very low temperatures, really dangerous conditions. And then as we get into Tuesday, again, 1056 millibar high, those blowing snow and wind chill will still persist. And then finally on Wednesday, that high reduces a little bit and the hazardous weather moves further east. Keep a weather eye out and stay safe out there.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.